In the late 19th century, a German biochemist found that nucleic acids were made up of sugar, phosphoric acid, and several nitrogen-containing bases. Then in 1943, American Oswald Avery proved that DNA carries genetic information, and even suggested that DNA might actually be the gene. Most people at the time thought the gene would be protein. By the late 1940s, DNA was largely accepted as a genetic molecule. However, scientists still needed to figure out this molecule's structure, and to understand how it worked.
Later on, in 1948, Linus Pauling discovered that many proteins take the shape of an alpha helix, spiraled like a spring coil. And in 1950, biochemist Erwin Chargaff found that the amount of certain bases always occurred in a 1-to-1 ratio. These discoveries were an important foundation for DNA research. By the early 1950s, the race to discover DNA was on. At Cambridge University, graduate student Francis Crick and research fellow James Watson had become interested when introduced to Pauling's work. Meanwhile, at King's College in London, Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin were also studying DNA. The Cambridge team's approach was to make physical models to narrow down the possibilities and eventually create an accurate picture of the molecule. The King's team took an experimental approach, looking particularly at X-ray diffraction images of DNA.
Now, when you want to understand the world, you have to go beyond those narrow limits, both in up and down, both in space and time. And then you find that there's a uniformity and extraordinary things happening which you'd no idea of just looking at the world. And this is the fascination of science, really, I think, to uncover so much which is not apparent just in everyday life.
Francis Crick was born on June 8, 1919 in Northampton, London. He went to Northampton Grammar School and Mill Hill School in London, and in 1934 he enrolled in University College. There he studied physics. However, in 1939, World War II interrupted his studies and had to join the British Admiralty Research Laboratory to help develop mines for the war. After the war ended, Crick moved to Strangeways Laboratory in Cambridge and studied biology, with an emphasis on physical properties of cytoplasm. Later on, he joined the Medical Research Unit at Cambridge's laboratory, headed by Max Perutz. There, they worked on identifying structures of proteins using X-ray technology. This became the topic of his PhD thesis. Eventually, while still at Cambridge's laboratory, he met a man named James Watson.